You know, I just pretty much gotten used to maybe the premiere being a couple extra episodes. What's with dropping a single episode premiere and then dropping two episodes back to back after that? The hell, Disney, what are you playing at? Daredevil, Born Again, episodes 2 and 3. So, I watched this yesterday, and unfortunately, I've had a lot going on today, so I'm probably not going to remember as much as I would like to in terms of specific details. I do remember I like it. It built on what the first episode did, and it feels like it's finding really solid footing for the story overall and for its characters, which is relieving, frankly. I mean, there's no guarantee that it won't screw up at some point, but we are off to such a better start than last season. Last season, the premiere episode was it just gave me all bad signs. And this, it's not just building on what came in the previous episode, it's doing some stuff flatly better. Like the action scenes in these are great. And they have way longer unbroken takes, way less chopping up of things like, the action scenes so much better in this. I'm actually starting to dig this bullseye. They finally are letting him, well, not be grounded in realistic anymore. I think that might have been part of why I didn't take to him in the third season of the show when it was back on Netflix. Because, all right, look, Bullseye is a street level villain in terms of what his power set is, and Daredevil is a street level hero. But like the Netflix tried to like make him grounded as a concept. Bullseye is ridiculous, and he should be allowed to be ridiculous. And they're finally letting him get there. So that's feeling good. I'm liking that. Good stuff with the swordsman as well. Like the use of him in this and sort of using him as in universe as like the test case for how far can we push this anti-vigilante stuff, and then within the meta narrative and the larger narrative, using him as the guide through exactly what it is Fisk wants the freedom to do, to capture whoever he doesn't like. And I love the emphasis that like not all these people are even vaguely vigilantes. Like when we have the whole thing go down in the convenience store, it's already like you're stretching it because the task force arrests the guy who owns the convenience store, which technically he fits the remit of a vigilante because he was prepared to take the law into his own hands. But that's not what you pitch. That's not what the people of New York who think this is a good idea signed off on. They thought you were going to go after folks like Daredevil, like Bullseye, but again, this guy is technically a vigilante. And then really making the point extremely well when I unfortunately I'm going to lose a lot of characters' names, but when the new White Tiger, her mother just like kind of shifts and grabs this guy's arm and he looks at it and goes, "That's assaulting an officer." Damn. Like and having all the members of the neighborhood like yelling at them, "Get out of our neighborhood, like let her go." Given that when this was filmed, it I don't know how much they could have been pulling directly from what's been going on with ICE, but it at most it would have been just the start of stuff. I think I'm not sure when the filming happened, but it is evoking all of that really, really well, and also in this case, letting Fisk be clever in a way that removes my concerns about him being more of a Trump analog, because we can criticize ICE without Fisk himself necessarily having to be a one-to-one to Trump. And there was very little leaning into that concept in this episode, which is good because I don't want them to overplay that too much. But the anti-vigilante task force, trying to say it quickly, threw me off. Mirroring that to ICE works really well. I guess my one point of concern is we have the guy who is on the task force, but is like, no, I'm not actually with them. Like, I think what they're doing is terrible. I am kind of cocking my head at that a little, because it's sort of the inverse of the just a few bad apples claims. Like, well, even in this awful, terrible, horrible, fascist force, oh, maybe some of them aren't that bad. Again, I'm not saying that there aren't good ways and intelligent and fair ways to do that, or good stories that could come out of that. I just get nervous. Here's where I am in a lot of ways at this point in my life. It's not that I automatically assume that the worst version of an idea is going to be what I see. I just have been let down so many times that it's very hard for me that when I see a plot point or theme or concept where I can see the ways it might conceivably go wrong, unless like the creators or the show itself have really done a lot to instill a sense of faith in me, I'm not going to trust that they don't screw it up. Now, hopefully they won't. Like, we're already building in a good way off of stuff from the previous episode in a way that waylaid some of my fears. So I'm not going to rule out the possibility, but like, just again, tread carefully. Like this one's dealing with a lot of loaded topics, so be careful about it. I think probably the thing that's the weak link right now is the stuff with the psychiatrist. It really is looking increasingly like her story is going to be handled with some of the least nuance. It really does seem like she's just going to keep pushing and pushing in an awful direction and become the thing she hates, which, again, it's not that it's like the worst story ever. It's just, well, first of all, I've seen it. Second of all, especially these days, the idea of the victim was so traumatized they became the new perpetrator of the same or similar crimes. It's just, it feels like very teenage edgelord as a concept, and also, it when handled really badly, which hopefully this won't do, when handled really badly, it can also feel like it is disrespectful to victims, to be honest. I'm not super worried about this going that far with it, but it is sort of heading in the direction I'd kind of rather it didn't. They're actually getting some really interesting stuff out of the character of Danny, of the what is he, deputy mayor. I'm really liking him. They're doing a really fascinating balance with him of a guy who clearly recognizes, at least to some extent, that the guy he works for is not a good guy, but he's there, and he also knows that if he plays his cards right, this can really go well for him, but he's not a complete scuzzbucket. I'm going to be real curious to see how they handle it, because right now it feels like they are simultaneously being like, yeah, there's more to him, but they're not using that, at least so far, as an excuse to let him off the hook for what it is he's contributing to. So I'm here for that. He's bringing some surprising depths, that character. I'm eager to see more from him. I'm also liking what we're getting with the new White Tiger. Well, original White Tiger's niece. I guess she hasn't really fully embraced the title yet, but like, she's gonna be White Tiger. I'm digging her. She is also apparently the one, doing the Kingpin mask bit. I did appreciate one of the things that felt like it kind of addressed something that the BB report this time did have a little bit, some white people expressing the nonsense views, which gives me some assurance that what they are actually doing is what people in my comments said, because I expressed the concern last time that like it feels off that you've got like the people of color in New York being like, yeah, we love the curfew and the armed cops on the street. It's kind of like, wait, what? Now, some people in the comments of my review of that premiere were like, well, it could be that BB is going out of her way to look for people of color to back Fisk because that's what's going to make him happiest in terms of like the angles she's playing. And like that was feasible, but also that read to me as headcanon and cope to avoid a potential issue. But this time they did have some white people in there, which means that either on purpose or accidentally, the show does now seem to actually back up that interpretation. Ideally, they did that on purpose and like built it this way, but it is also possible that it just kind of happened this way by accident. But sometimes it happens as a good accident as opposed to a bad one. God, I feel like there's so much more I should be covering. They're doing great stuff with Karen, like watching her really come into her own. And like, not that she wasn't a great character before, she was since season 1, but she honestly hadn't really felt like she'd gotten much of a chance to shine since the first half of season 2, back when it was still on Netflix, and that they're letting her stretch her legs again as a character. And I'm really glad to see that. I'm enjoying that. And especially when she, talks things through with Matt about, how far do we take this? Do we go full Frank Castle on this? And that she's perhaps willing to push further than others. Oh, it was the move that Fisk pulled that was so smart. Like, Matt Murdock is a hero. People of New York, help us find him. Like, oh, he basically got the entirety of New York to hunt down his enemy under the guise of finding a lost hero. That was good. That was real good. I like that a lot. And it's the kind of clever that I like to see from Kingpin. I don't mind when Kingpin is just basically like muscling his way through, but I like when he can be clever in a plausible way. And that was a perfect threading of that needle. It's not like raising him to the level of mastermind where it's like, okay, that's a little much, but it's also not just treating him like a brute and a thug. It is just devilishly efficiently clever what he did there. And I love that. I love that with him. And this was good. This is going to be an oddly short review, considering this was 2 episodes. But like I said, I should have shot this basically immediately after I watched it, so I could have remembered more of it. But it all bled together, even though it's 2 episodes in my head. It's just one long episode, and I'm probably forgetting a bunch of individual beats that I probably should mention. But this is good. This is good. Keep this trajectory. I'll be real happy. Daredevil, Born Again, episodes 2 and 3. What'd you think about them? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, subscribe. Don't worry too much about it, though. Take a relaxed attitude around here so you can come on back next time you need a break. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Zubin Lafula, Auntie Kate 808, Mara G, Angry Casperol, Dave Hall, Oliver B, Mystic Shadow, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Becky Sparks, Ulrich, Twilord, Tracy Scrabbit, Pal Barabajoggle, Sir Didymus is my favorite, and to thank some folks from the lower tiers: Cyborg Ex Machina, Alex, and Lightning Spirit. I've been saying Angry Casperol for ages, and I almost said Angie Casperol. You are distracting, the whole lot of you.